Took the like button out for dinner before dick slapping. Just felt like it was the polite thing to do.
YugiNoNo!
King prepare! Alright guys, first up, before I get into the discussion, I am excited to announce that I am officially sponsored by MetaMats. We were able to strike up a deal, so I will be showing their product every now and then. But the coolest thing is that they will also be providing me with free mats to give away to you guys. Which is just insane. It's so awesome. I'm so glad that David and I, who is the owner of MetaMats, just got along instantly and got along so well so we could get this organized for you guys. If you guys didn't see my review of MetaMats playmats, they made me this really awesome Stay Salty and Get Ratchet for Jesus 2-player mat. And that's what they do, is they make color cloth mats, not just in, green and black like this. They actually print things in color. They make really high quality mats. So for them to just give me this stuff for free to give away to you guys is just nuts. But after all, guys, I am Yugioh Jesus, so I can get this kind of shit done for you. So be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell to stay tuned for future mat giveaways. But now on to the topic of this video. I was actually watching a VMD TCG video the other day, which is what inspired me to make this one. If you guys do not know who VMD TCG is, he actually won the most recent Next Great YouTuber, and he also did the voice of Obelisk the Tormentor for me in my Yu-Gi-Oh! God skit. He is a really cool guy and makes really great content, so if you haven't checked him out, be sure to check him out. But in his video, he mentioned that hand traps like Ash Blossom aren't actually broken at all and are actually just the next natural evolution of the game. This is because the game is going to keep getting faster and faster and faster, especially with Link summoning just around the corner. The game is going to get faster right from the start of Link format, and it's going to keep getting faster as they release more and more broken Link archetypes. And he said that more or less in his video. I mean, I'm not directly quoting him or anything, but that's more or less what he said in his video, and that really got my gears turning. It really got me thinking that he's right. Now, I'm going to explain why he's right, and I'm also going to explain my views on where the game is heading towards. So first up, let's talk about why hand traps are completely fair, especially for the game moving forward. I mean, I've already brought up the speed of the game, but there's more to it than that. Because hand traps are usually a 1-for-1 or a neg-1. For example, Ash Blossom stopping something like Reinforcement of the Army or Foolish Burial is a 1-for-1. But a card like DD Crow sniping something out of your opponent's graveyard is an inherent neg-1, but it's a neg-1 that keeps your opponent from progressing their plays possibly. Like sniping out Rapier against Zoo, or Stone of Legend against Blue Eyes, or Mizuki against Zombies, just random examples I'm thinking of off the top of my head. So in other words, you do go neg 1 with a card like DD Crow or Effect Veiler, but in a lot of cases those neg 1s are really worth it to stop your opponent in their tracks, or at the very least get them to not make the full board that they would have been able to make. The only unfair hand trap, in my opinion anyways, is Max C. Max C is just way too powerful, guys, and in my opinion it's probably gonna get banned. There's a reason why I went from 3 to 2 to 1. It's just way too strong. But I'll talk about why I think it's gonna get banned more here in a minute. First, let me explain why Max C is so strong. Going second, for example, you're able to stop your opponent from making their full board. Because once you drop that Max C, your opponent is not gonna do all the special summons that they normally would do because it would be stupid. You'd just draw more cards. Or they take the Max C challenge, which is retarded these days because every deck is just really broken, giving your opponent just all these resources, like infinite resources in their hand to out your unbeatable board is just stupid. In other words, guys, Max C is almost never just a 1-for-1, it just lets you go mad plus, which makes it an unfair card. Now, Max C is probably going to get banned in my opinion because Link summoning is just around the corner, and we're going to be special summoning way more than we have in the past, like more so than even in Pepe format. The non-stop special summons are just going to keep getting worse, you guys, which I don't really like. I like a more slower paced game, hence why I play, more legacy formats most of the time, but there's nothing you or I can do to stop it. The game is going to keep evolving the way it is evolving. And because it's evolving to be more of a special summon combo-licious card game, Max C is an enemy to Link summoning, you guys, so that's probably why it's going to go from 1 to 0, and we already have cards like Vanity's Emptiness taken away from us, and we already have like other good floodgates in the game like Skill Drain, down to 1, so like we're moving away from floodgates and we're moving towards just spam, like just special summon vomit. Now you could argue that Max C is a necessary evil because it lets you see cards, to out your opponent's big boards, but as a result of the vastly increased number of special summons in the game, Max C is becoming a more broken card. But cards like Ash Blossom and Ghost Ogre are cards that you can play to slow down your opponent that are more fair. In other words, you guys, hand traps make going second way more tolerable. That is also what makes kaijus fair, because you can't have broken cards like Trident, Masterpiece, and Crystal Wing without some way to get around them, because players aren't going to open the complete nuts every time to be able to play through all that bullshit. So when you're going second, you need to be able to fairly slow down your opponent, and that is where hand traps come into play. The speed of the game, you guys, is making regular old trap cards obsolete, because as powerful as cards like Solemn Warning and Solemn Strike are, they only help you when you're going first. They do nothing for you going second. Like, what good does a Solemn Warning do for you going second against an established board? It doesn't do anything for you. Now, going first, sure, those cards are just as powerful as ever, as is D-Barrier right now, for example. But guys, you are not always going to be able to go first in Yu-Gi-Oh! Hand traps, however, are good going first or second. Now, I'm not saying that all trap cards are going to be phased out forever. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying for the most part, we're going to be playing less traps, then actually less and less traps as time goes on. That's just the way I see it anyways. I mean, of course, unless the game takes a drastic U-turn and slows down some. But there's always going to be floodgate cards, for example, that are going to have relevance every now and then. Like, let's just say that a deck rises up that searches a shit ton like Necroz did. A floodgate-like Mistake would be very, very viable in that format. And there probably will be other traps that are played, like Artifact Sanctum, for example, to go into that Artifact Scythe or Moral Talk, because Artifact Sanctum, guys, is a really powerful card. It goes off when it's popped, it goes off on your opponent's turn, getting out Scythe, you know, breaking them out of their extra deck. Like, Artifact Sanctum is probably going to be the exception to this rule for a while. But once again, guys, just like D-Barrier, Solemn Warning, or Solemn Strike, Artifact Sanctum needs you to go first to work. I mean, Artifact Sanctum isn't as bad because you do have Moral Talk, which, you know, pops any face-up card, so that is disruptive, but definitely Solemn Strike needs you to go first. In my opinion, guys, the way things are going, traps are only going to be played in decks that really rely on going first, like really heavily rely on going first, like anti-meta decks, for example, if anti-meta even exists anymore. So going back to hand traps, though, a lot of you guys hate Ash Blossom, and I get it. I totally get it. I don't necessarily like the card either. It is really, really good. It's annoying, it's disruptive, and on top of all of that, it is very expensive because they made it a secret rare. But I honestly feel like we're gonna have to get used to seeing hand traps all the time. And I also think that there are gonna be plenty more broken hand traps in the future that are gonna make what we have now look like nothing. However, you guys, I do feel like Konami could evolve some sort of archetype specific, you know, hand trap archetype, kind of similar to Paleozoics, you know how they're all like trap monsters, so that we can actually still see purple cards being played in Yu-Gi-Oh! That aren't just counter trap cards or obscene floodgates. Konami very well could make trap cards a little bit faster and more viable. I really think that they can, because I found a card called Dimension Slice that isn't really a hand trap, but it is a step in the right direction, kind of. Well, it's the closest thing that I could find to a step in the direction that I'm talking about. I really do think that it is very possible that Konami could make literal hand traps, traps that activate from the hand. I know that that sounds kind of crazy, but I think that if trap cards are to survive in the future, you know, besides really powerful trap cards like Solemn Warning, for example, I think that Konami is going to have to evolve the trap mechanics some way or another and not just pump out more and more powerful trap cards. Now, that could be the way that they're going. Maybe they will just keep making more and more obscenely broken trap cards to keep people buying them, but I think that evolving the trap card mechanic is just as valid of a solution. And there's one last thing that I was thinking of that I felt like I should bring up. Let's just say that we enter into a couple formats in a row at some point in the future where no one's really setting trap cards at all, or setting cards period, because everyone's playing, you know, all go with monsters, you know, and everyone's stopping each other with hand traps, like I've been talking about in this video. If we entered a few formats in a row where there's no, you know, set 5 or set 3 or anything like that, cards like Heavy Storm or Feather Duster could come back. And not only could they come back, but they wouldn't even be played, which is insane to think about. Because think about it, even right now in our current meta, if Heavy Storm or Feather Duster came back, everyone would be playing it. I mean, everyone would. Why wouldn't you? Those cards are just inherently powerful. You have to play them, very similar to, you know, certain formats you just have to play Raigeki, for example. I mean, Heavy Storm and Feather Duster would still destroy like field spells and stuff, but I mean, if you're not even playing field spells at some point in the future, I know the diagram as a card right now. But let's just say that, you know, in the future you're not even playing field spells. Like, you know, Heavy Storm and Feather Duster would just kind of come back under the radar and no one would even care, which is just nuts. But yeah, guys, that is gonna wrap it up for this video. It's not as funny as my normal stuff. I just really wanted to do a genuine discussion on where I think the game is going. And as kooky as some of the stuff I said in this video sounds, I think that a lot of it is very possible and very well could happen. But go ahead and let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. And as always, be sure to dick slap that like button and subscribe.